All right, ladies and gents, welcome to T3G Tangents. This is the podcast, and this is Passion as a Business. Today, now, this may be a little weird for those watching, those who've watched other podcasts, those who've listened to other podcasts. Today, I'm joined by Fullthrottle Auto, who many of you may know as the other half of T3G Media. Today, we're going to be talking about your journey to becoming a racer and just becoming more of a known name in the automotive industry. And anyone that's going to join us will be chatting in. We'll have some live questions.
Right.
If you did not catch us live, make sure you check us out on Caffeine on Thursdays, midday-ish. So far, no set schedule
There's
yet. No set schedule yet, but definitely check us out on caffeine.tv/T3G Media. And yeah, let's get into it. Let me ask, and I guess this is kind of we'll do a softball first.
All right.
How did you first know that you wanted to race, that you wanted to be involved in cars and all that stuff?
Man, I wish I could say that I realized it early in life and followed it, but that unfortunately wasn't the circumstance. It took a while. Now, you can put it on so many different things on why that is, but it was more of a I'm 32 now, so like I would probably say I was maybe what 29 when I realized like I always knew I loved it. I always knew that it was there, but to actually pursue it and actually make it the thing that I want to go for and make it a thing to achieve, that happened when I was like 29. But I knew for the longest time that it's something that I really loved participating in, because I've done some like very, very little go-karting stuff in the past. I've done some stupid things, driving cars in my younger life.
I remember those
Yeah,
days.
yeah. So I always knew that it was inside me wanting to race, but actually realizing what that real passion was, that took some time. And it's funny because for some people it happens right away. They realize it early on in life, maybe because they have parents that push them towards it, or parents that put them in different things, and then they realize while doing those different things the one thing they want to do. And then for some people it takes a very long time, even when they go through high school. They're always being told, figure out what you want to do and take that in college. Some people don't know. Some people don't know even while taking college if that's what they want to do, or if that one thing is they want to do. So is it out of the norm that it took me so long? No, but at the same time, do I wish it didn't take me so long so I could have had a head start, as to say, or to kind of put it that way? Yeah, of course. Then I would probably be in a little bit different place than I am right now, maybe further ahead. The longer you do something, the more of a likeliness that you've accomplished something with it.
Of course, for sure, for sure. Now, and that's kind of the big thing about this kind of, I guess, section of our podcast, this broadcast that we do. We talk about everyone at every stage of their journey to doing what they want to do and making that a living and making that a success. So currently, where would you put yourself on that journey? Would you say you're just starting? I mean, we'll get into some more details, but recently you completed your first racing circuit in go-karting, and that was super cool.
That was pretty cool.
So, would you say you're at the beginning? Would you say you're a little further ahead because you've been involved in the industry kind of as a documenter, as a more of a creator?
It's tough to say. Am I in racing in general? I would say I'm definitely still in the beginning stage, right? Because I just did my first official kind of race. In the actual industry itself, I would say I'm an amateur, not necessarily a beginner. Amateur in the sense that I'm still definitely going to be learning a lot more on multiple aspects of it. Being in racing, being involved in the industry, and connecting with people, and creating even a following. That's still an amateur level at the moment. Is it the beginning for that aspect? No, I would say I'm a little past the beginning parts of that. But definitely in the racing is the beginning. As you said, the first real hit for racing was last year. I did some go-karting just on my own, just like rentals, nothing crazy.
Yeah, we had set some heavy goals, right? You walked into K1 and you're like, I'm gonna hit 16s,
right,
and then they're like, That's impossible.
Right. So you go in a few times in different locations and you see what you can do and what really, to me, it's like it's a great confirmation when you think you're really wanting to do something. You have this feeling that you're good at it, but without real acknowledgement, or even from yourself or from others, you don't know how true that is. And then you go do it, and then you're like, well, maybe there is something there, type of deal. So,
For sure.
yeah, I definitely last year I did a little extra on the outdoor go-karting and found a place because I met a guy at K1, which is an indoor thing. I did that maybe a handful of times. Then he left. He went to this outdoor place. And then last summer, I took advantage of that and I tried it out a few times. Unfortunately, maybe at best, I did 4 or 5 1-hour runs, which are split up in 15-minute sections. And I had a lot of fun. I loved it. I mean, just being behind, whatever that particular vehicle is. In this case, it was a go-kart. Just being on a racetrack and doing it just is a feeling that's, I think, for me at least, in this aspect, indescribable. Like I don't have a way to properly describe it. Some people have words for specific things, and I'm like, I don't feel like what I feel has even been like the word has been invented.
Sure.
So I always say that. Um, but yeah, I would say for racing, I'm 100% still just starting. I mean, I'm super excited to see what happened in in the racing and what I was able to accomplish, even though it was only a three event, or how can I put that? It was one event, but it had three different competitions in it, or it was one competition that had three events in it, and to see how I
Yo, Delabor, what's
fared
up, man?
out to see how I fared out against
Where?
people that have had years in the industry versus somebody myself who just literally had started maybe total of 12 times being in a go-kart before hitting the racetracks and
Right.
being in a competition, and actually comparing very strongly to those people. That's that indication that it's like, oh crap, there actually is something there. Now I just need to put more money and time into it, and that's kind of where other things play along. But yeah, so racing beginning in the actual industry, I would say it's an amateur, but not necessarily the beginning. It's
Sure.
not
Sure.
just starting out.
Well, I think what I want to clarify for those listening and those watching in the future, these outdoor go karts, while they are go karts, and you may have a particular mentality about what that means, these outdoor go karts go up to 55 miles per hour.
Yeah, they're not
If
slow.
you've ever driven on a highway, it's that lower to the ground with
Yeah,
way less protection.
yeah, way less
So
protection. You got this suit on. I mean, depending, if you how seriously you're taking it, you got a helmet on, you got a suit on, and depending on how bad you crash, that's going to be the thing that's protecting you from that crash. So,
right.
it all depends. It's kind of like a motorcycle type of deal. You don't have much on, but yeah, it's intense, but I love it. My passion is always going to be in cars, racing cars. But the go-kart is a lot of fun. There's definitely certain things that it transfer over how to race in cars, but there's also some things that are specifically for go-karts and how to race them as well.
Welcome to the broadcast and unlock. How you doing?
Yeah, how's it going?
We're
Live.
sitting down with Full Throttle Auto, otherwise known as my cousin Harris,
Yeah, which
and
the other half of
the other
T3G.
half of T3G Media. But he's pursuing a career in racing, and yeah, we're just discussing that and talking about what steps he's taking to further his journey. So on that note, what beyond obviously you completed your first
Yeah,
race series, which was outstanding. You placed really, really well, like you said, in comparison to people who are seasoned veterans, really,
yeah,
who've been doing it a lot more.
right.
They've got
Years. I mean,
10,
years.
20, 100, races under
Oh
their
yeah,
belt above you,
easy.
and you crushed even some of the younger kids
I
who were
did.
doing really well, by the way.
But they started 3 years ago.
Right, but they were
So
starting,
like,
yeah,
it's not like
yeah.
they just
Some,
started.
you got these 13, 14-year-olds that have been working since they were 10.
Yeah, so like they've been learning, and some of them got lucky enough to speak with pros and learn from some guys that have been
Sure.
in the industry. So yeah, they've had already 3 years of experience where I'm coming in with basically zero, nothing on my hands. So
For sure.
yeah, I placed for my weight class, I placed third out of like 25, 30 people. And overall, in the entire series, I placed, I believe, 13th out of like 110 racers.
You can't
So
even be mad at that
I
first time out.
I can't. It's one of those things like, yeah, did you want to be number one? Sure, but then you got to think about like, okay, these guys have had multiple hours, years of experience. You had zero. You have nothing. You went in and you were like, I just want to see what my measurement is. And then of course, that whole competitive aspect's like, oh, I want to be number one, and then I'm a little disappointed that I'm not number one. But then you got to remember, like, once again, you don't have experience, they do. So obviously
Right.
being number one was a pretty high goal that might not have been achievable at the moment. So
Right. Exactly. Now it is very much difficult journey, and I think that's kind of a theme we have, within this podcast idea, this talk show idea, is that there is way more to every journey than anyone can think of when they first start.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
when you come into it, you're thinking, I'm gonna race,
Right.
and then you look at all the requirements for every single level of
Oh
that,
yeah.
and it's not stuff you were thinking about when you were like, I want to race.
I just want to race. I just want to be in that car or cart, and I just want to race. But there's so much more to it. I mean, it's having the proper gear, having the proper time put into it, having the proper funds for it. Obviously, car racing is way more expensive. Not saying that karting is not. Karting is still pricey, especially if you try to do it as a continuous thing throughout the year. Um, but yeah, no, there's just so much that plays along on that. I mean, having your own go-kart and being able to practice in it. You can do the rental races, which is a option, not that's not
Right.
necessarily countrywide. And then there's other go-karts that are specific to each race that is countrywide. You can start one way at one location and literally compete like you would in road racing in cars. So,
Right.
it's like a
Exactly.
country nationwide thing.
Now, on that note, how much do you think pursuing kind of this, I want to call it like a practice round, like you're working on becoming a better kart racer.
Right.
How much do you think that's going to help as far as car racing? Once you get to road racing, once you get to your time attack kind of stuff that you want to do, what how much, like, it's a completely different, literally it's a different machine, it's a different environment. How much do you think it's helping you in your overall process?
In my process, here's the thing. I think, in all honesty, just from experience and from the little bit that I've done, I think what it's supposed to teach somebody that hasn't been paying attention or teaching themselves outside of karting how to drive, it's supposed to teach you how to drive. It's supposed to teach you what lines you're supposed to take, how you're supposed to take each corner, understanding the over limit and under limit of the cart, and that essentially transfers over into a car as well. How you take a turn, what line you take, what's your limit of a car, what's not your limit of the car. So that kind of stuff transfers over. To me, I already had that understanding.
Sure.
So mainly because, like, oh, how do you have an understanding without doing it, right? That would be a question that would be asked, because I've been researching it. I've been in my head. I've been nonstop, not just in my head, but just going online, watching videos, learning what's a proper seating position when sitting in a car, what's the proper racing
For sure.
line. So I've been watching all that stuff, getting that knowledge outside of doing it. So when I went into a go-kart, I knew right away how to use the entire track. I
Right.
didn't, it's not something that I had to be taught, where when you first start go-karting, if you've never driven or you've never paid attention to that aspect of the racing line and stuff like that, that's what you learn.
Sure.
So yes, it would transfer to most people, but because I'm older in age and because I took the time to actually research this stuff outside of not being able to do it, I was already knowledgeable enough to understand, hey, when I get in this, this is how I got to do this. That some people have a natural capability of understanding certain things.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
think, for me, clearly not having the experience, not being in a cart or in a car on a racetrack, and then being able to just jump in and do it, that clearly tells me that there's something inside me that allows me to understand how to properly race without needing the actual, um, basic training, I
Right.
guess, of it. And that's where I'm fortunate enough. So now, knowing, understanding that I have that capability, now is just putting as much time in as people that maybe don't have that, but all they've been doing is practicing. And so, yes, is there true that, like, for instance, even in basketball or football, they say some people have just a natural talent and some people put thousands of hours to
Yeah,
be just as
for
good as
sure.
those people, if not better, that have natural talent. But if the people with natural talent put in just as much time, they're going to be better. Period.
Yeah,
It's what's going
definitely.
to
I mean, I,
happen.
I remember like going back to kind of my very limited, obviously limited experience in sports.
Right.
Going back to like school and even younger, grade school. I remember we had a few kids. You'd run the mile and they'd crush these numbers that I'm just like, that doesn't even seem like a feasible number to
Right.
me. I remember I think eighth grade we had someone run the mile in like 7.25 minutes,
Yeah,
and I was like, that doesn't even make any
yeah,
sense to me.
yeah.
Like in my head, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. So like, yeah, but I think there's some people just come into it with a talent, but now did that individual push forward and did they pursue that,
Right.
or is that something that they just kind of left on the table? And now on the flip side was there somebody who ran a 10-minute mile that same year who then worked on it and by senior year
Yeah.
of high school
Like they
pushed a
decimated.
6-minute
Yeah,
mile?
right.
You don't know that. It's very, very difficult to kind of, like you said, it's very much a matter of how much energy you put into it,
Yeah. And I mean, I think
regardless of
that
your talent
that
level.
applies, to almost anything that we do,
Yeah,
and
for
and
sure.
they always say, 10,000 hours is going to get you, to a skill that you need to be. 10 years is going to help you master that skill.
Hmm.
So it applies to everything we do. Yeah, do I focus on cars? Sure, but on the retrospect, I also focus on making videos, and the same thing applies. I don't might not have necessarily a natural skill in creating videos, but the more I do it, the better I get.
Right.
So that's why, it can apply to literally anything that we do.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think I have a kind of like a weird understanding of mechanics. Like when I first kind of learned the difference of like automatic versus manual, and I sat down in somebody's manual car and I think it was just out of high school. I was like, oh, this is cool. And I sat there and I like messed with the gears and I'm like, all right, like I understand how this process works.
Right.
So then a buddy of mine was like, hey, I got a 80, was it 89 CRX?
CRX, yeah.
And he's like, you want to take it for a drive? And he tosses me the keys, and I was like, yeah.
Right.
And I sit down and I'm like, all right, I mean, I understand the concept. Let's just do it.
Right.
I stalled it a few times, but like
Yeah.
I figured it out because it was just like I understood
Yeah,
the
yeah,
concept of
yeah.
how the gears
Yeah,
work
that's
versus like somebody who's gonna need the step-by-step instructions for them to understand it.
yeah,
So I
no,
think yeah,
absolutely. That's definitely a great example. Like realizing that you understand something that maybe somebody has no concept of. They're just getting in and they're like, what do I do? I don't even know like where to start.
for sure. I mean, it's
Where
like
you
video games. Like
Yeah,
for me, the two stick like moving left and like upper body and movement,
right. That's just
perfect.
basic.
It
Yeah.
makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. My wife can't do it. I've known many people who are like, I can't do I can't move my body, like I can't walk and then turn at the
Right.
same time. And I'm like, but you like to me it doesn't make sense not to know that
Not
because
to
like
know that.
you
Yeah.
do that anyway.
Yeah.
Like you can walk down the street and then turn your body
Oh yeah,
and do the
100%.
same. Like
Yeah,
I don't know, it just
exactly.
doesn't make sense. But yeah, like it's that physical kind of kinetic understanding of certain things.
Yeah.
Some people get it, some people don't, and and it's not like they're not trying hard enough. It's
Oh yeah. What?
if they did put in time, I'm sure they'd be great at
Oh
it.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's all about what you want to learn and how badly you want to learn it type of deal.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah. Like you said, it's the 10,000 hours. It's
yeah.
putting in the effort, putting in the time. Now we are working on kind of a long form version of what we're talking about here, kind of more of a broader little mini doc of your process and getting into racing.
Yeah, yeah.
What is beyond doing like another race series? What is the next step for you?
Uh, I mean, it's really just continuing to, as much as I can financially, continue to be involved in anything that I'm interested in racing. So there's all sorts of forms of racing. I enjoy them all, but there's one that I enjoy more than others, and that's like grip style racing. So basically, what you do in go-karts, what you do in like Le Mans and stuff like that. Like it's GT style racing where they, take overall normal car and all they do is gut out the inside and make the engine a little bit better than it would be, in your daily commuter. So that's the cars I like. Stuff like NASCAR, stuff like Formula One. I see those as giant go-karts
Right.
with shells on them. I don't see those as real cars because there's nothing of a car in them. Yes, do they have four wheels and a chassis, sure, but so does a go-kart, and we don't consider that a car.
Right.
So all I see it is just a bigger version of a go-kart with a bigger engine. That's simple as that. Where an actual car like Porsches, like Aston Martins, Corvettes, and stuff like that, real legit cars with proper panels and hoods that you can remove, not just this one giant shell that you propped up to get to everything. That's the difference. That's the difference between, for me, like a shell and a car. So yeah, that's what I want to revolved around that. So whatever that means, if that means I go to a track day and I just hang out with some people and just they know that I'm there and that I'm interested and I'm crazy about it. Or if that means like be part of a track day, put my car out, even if it's just my regular Honda Accord or the 240 that I've been trying to work on. Whatever it is, to just kind of fit myself in there until I have the finances to kind of jump into also the SCCA. Which is not cheap. You can do some autocross stuff, which it is cheap, but that's not my passion. That's not my thing that's a go-to. I enjoy it. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's still behind the wheel and you're technically racing.
Sure.
But it's not the thing I want to do. It's the door-to-door stuff that I want to do. And that stuff's not cheap. I mean, somebody had recently, I listened to a podcast. Somebody was talking to a person, one of the marketing guys from the SCCA, and they were talking about, how to involve millennials and others to be in the racing industry,
Right.
to actually enjoy and be part of it and participate in it, right? And the points they made were sure relevant, but really I think what a lot of these people that are what I realized they were missing on, that they didn't even want to mention, is the cost. The cost is so, I mean, just a track day, a proper track day is about $300. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's a rich man's sport already right there, because a $300 drop on a single day for somebody even like us that, we make decent money compared to some other
For
people,
sure.
that's still a chunk of change that I literally cannot just throw
Hey,
in.
that's
And as much as
that's a
it's my
couple bills,
passion,
man. Like,
yeah, exactly. As much as it's my passion, right now financially, I can't just spend that because I have to pay bills. I have bills. Unfortunately, I'm in a situation where I have to live check by check. So like, it's not cheap. So knowing that just a track day, just to take literally your street car that you've done nothing to on a
right.
track, so you don't get a ticket, to enjoy the thing that you've been wanting to do, that's $300. So just to be part of the SCCA and race in a specific group, which is the regulations and limits between each type of car. So that's why you have to choose the group you want to be in and how your car is going to be modified. But just to do that, minimum you need a driver racing license, which is anywhere between 4 to 6 grand to take the school and get the license.
Wow.
And that's not including buying a potentially a $50,000 race car, and then of course having uh, you know um, a set of mechanics with you, a pit crew as they say, but not necessarily as big of a real pit crew. Maybe one or two guys that can help when you pull in to fix an issue or something like that, depending on what you're racing.
Right.
So yeah, you're looking at extraordinary amount of money. So yeah, am I passionate about it? 100%. But I also understand my current limit on what I can be part of. So anything that I can throw my name in, anything that people understand what my passion is and what I want to do, and they see that I'm trying hard to be part of that. Whatever that provides for me is what I want to do. So that's what I'm at the moment going to continue on until financially I can work up to being part of the SCCA. But that's going to be the more bigger push about being a racer.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot of research on this, and like you understand your next steps, and I think that's a big key in a lot of journeys. I think knowing where I talked to Jordan Wayne Long a couple weeks ago, and he said something that I think is very true, and it's being ready for the next thing.
Yeah.
If let's say we put this video out, we put this mini doc out of you wanting to go out there, you being ready and having that experience already, and not having an understanding of the industry already, if that should pop off and people see it
Right.
and they come to you,
Yeah.
you're already aware. You already know the things that you want to do. You already know the path you need to go down to do the thing you want to do. It's not going to be like, oh wow, like you want to sponsor me? Like what does that mean?
Right.
You know, like
No,
you're not going to be in
yeah.
that position of like not knowing what the next move is. It's you got to be ready for the next thing. Like you got to be ready, and he said it. You got to be ready for luck.
Right.
Some, if the right person sees it,
Yeah.
even if there's 10 views on it,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
think it wouldn't be. I think it'll do well.
I'm hoping so. Yeah.
But if 10 people see it, but if the right 10 people see it, that's all that matters.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's a lot of it, uh, it- one of the biggest things is actually doing the thing you want to do,
Hmm.
right? I think the biggest problem nowadays is that people either procrastinate or
Welcome, Juan Garcia
they tell themselves why.
and Zeno.
Yeah, welcome. They tell themselves why they can't do it or why they don't want to do it. Or why there is a reason why they wouldn't be able to do it,
For
right? There
sure,
may be failure or a fear of failure,
right?
right? But you can't be afraid of that because here's the thing. If you tell yourself, I'm a person with huge anxiety issues, right? Like that's a medical issue that I have. I'm
Sure.
just crazy anxious about things. And so I would always tell myself, oh, I can't go do this or I can't do this because in my head, I've already made the
Little
decision for
more, more.
somebody, where you really aren't going to know unless you do it. So
Absolutely.
like I approached and that's the reason I make videos, right? Is to get closer to the thing that I really want to do, which is the racing. Well, through doing that, I've approached multiple companies and I said, here's what I do, here's my work. Can I do this with you guys? Can I get a media pass? Can I do? And I could have easily told myself, there's no way. I'm still a
Right.
beginner.
Right.
My work doesn't match up to others. But they said yes. And because they said
That's
yes,
it.
I went and did it. And then I got better because I kept doing the thing I wanted to do.
For sure.
So it's just not being afraid to want to hear no, because that is a possibility, but so is a
Always.
yes.
Right.
So it's literally a 50-50 chance, which is all the things in the world that it has a 50-50 chance. It could go bad or it can go good.
For sure.
So don't automatically give yourself an answer. Don't tell yourself that it's already a no before you even know.
Absolutely.
That's a horrible way that is a good way to prevent yourself from doing something that you might be crazy passionate about.
Absolutely. So to give you guys an update, Zeno Juan Garcia, welcome to the broadcast. What we're doing today is we're talking passion as a business, pursuing your dream, pursuing what you want to do as a way of life, as a living, and being living off the thing that you love. We've talked with a couple people over the last 2 weeks. This is my cousin Haris. He does Fullthrottle Auto on YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram, all that good stuff. Check out his Instagram, by the way. It's crisp.
It's gotten there. I do have to
It's
say so
crisp.
myself. It's gotten there.
With he's pursuing a career in racing. He wants to grip style race. You said, right?
Grip style racing, GT style racing, whatever you want to call it, Le Mans, that's like the best way I can put it, like Le Mans style, where it's actual in the course,
Sure.
you're racing door to door. Now, Le Mans has different categories of cars. I'm looking more at the GT cars where they're actual cars gutted out, stuff like that.
Right,
So,
right. Should pursue basket weaving as a full-time job. If you love basket weaving,
listen,
here's the thing. I will quote Gary Vee, because Gary Vee I think is 100% correct on this. You can make a living internet.
yeah, 100%.
If you love basket weaving, you can make videos, you can make photo content, video content, blog content. Through that, doing that, and make a living off it.
100%.
No question about it.
Not just from the videos or the photos, but also selling your product. So if you can show people your product, and they love it, they're gonna buy it. So yeah, it's all about just showing the actual thing. I noticed there's a little bit of lag going on.
That is weird, yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. But yeah, it's really just going for the thing you really want to go for. The whole point of Full Throttle Auto was that I wanted to be part of the automotive industry, but I knew that I couldn't just jump into racing. That is crazy expensive. So I said, okay, well, what's another thing that I can do that's within the industry and keep my name out there? People know me, get to know me and stuff like that, talk to people. And that was like, well, okay, I always wanted to create,
Right.
and YouTube's a thing. So I love movies, I love TV shows, I even like documentary style films, like the Mischief series that I used to watch and stuff like that. And that kind of like feeds into doing what we do now on YouTube, which is releasing videos about the thing that you enjoy.
Hmm.
And luckily, creating videos is the second closest thing to racing cars. Now, granted, there's definitely a difference in the
Sure,
passion of the
sure.
two, but it's there. So it's combining two things that I really, really love, and doing it. And so the bright side to that is I'm also keeping my name in people's heads, so that way I can then use that to my advantage of getting into racing. They see me, they know me, they know who I am, they know who I've worked with, who stuff like that. So
Right.
it's like I said, it's easy to tell yourself why it won't work.
Sure.
It's harder to just do it and see what happens. I've
Absolutely.
done it multiple times. I've done it countless times.
The
Uh,
easiest thing to do is to walk away. The
yeah,
easiest thing to do
the
is to walk
easiest
away and
thing.
say, you know what, this is going to be hard. I don't have the right stuff. Blah blah blah. Like there's a thousand excuses to every one reason
100%.
you should do it.
100%. And that's the thing. I have a great family-in-law, and they always do these things during New Year's where they ask what you've learned this year. And 2 years ago, I said the biggest thing I've learned, and this is not new. This is not like something that people haven't heard before,
Right.
but it is.
You didn't make a
I didn't
discovery.
make a discovery that somebody hasn't been telling you this for years,
Hmm.
or God knows how long. But it's 100% true, and that is, unless you ask, you will never know the answer.
Yep.
You will tell yourself you know the answer, but
It's
you have no
It's
idea what the
Schrodinger's
outcome
cat. You
is.
can say that the cat's dead, but you won't know that it's dead unless you open the box.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like my biggest, I would say right now, my biggest accomplishment is the Chicago Auto Show.
For sure.
I got media passes with the Chicago Auto Show being virtually nothing, and honestly still getting to learn how to create videos
And
in a
last time
better
around, it was
fashion.
through you were a part of a network, and it
I
was
was
through
part of a
them, right?
network, yeah, and even they said they can't even promise me that there's even a
Right.
slight of a chance that they can get. But all he did was like, I can throw your name that you're applying, and then they can kind of decide from there. But I have no pull.
Right.
They're very picky on who they provide the passes to, and I was like, I completely understand. You obviously want the right people to cover your show.
Sure.
Clearly, whatever I did at whatever point, whatever they saw,
Right.
they thought there was something there. And now, this last year, or beginning of this year, before it came up, I got invited back. I didn't even
They called
apply.
you. They
Yeah,
called you.
they said, hey, we'd love for you to come back. Please make sure to fill out the form like you normally do, and we'd love to give you the media passes. Just put the
That's
names that you need,
that's
and
outstanding.
now, even on top of that, they've done nothing but share my photos. A show that is
Right, right. So the
huge.
Chicago Auto Show, and Juan Garcia, you absolutely should, and I hope you do. I think basket weaving is very interesting. I don't have the patience for it. It's an incredibly talented work. So like I think
Oh yeah, I
if you're
mean,
truly going to pursue that, I
people
wish you
have
luck.
people
I
have
hope
some
you do blow
crazy
up.
skill. I don't, you know.
But with the Chicago Auto Show, that was the coolest thing. Like you messaged me and I saw it. I was like, the International Auto
Auto
Show
show. One of the,
shared your
if
photo.
not,
Like that
if
was
yeah,
crazy.
if not, so the ones that get talked about the most is the Detroit Auto Show. But what
Detroit and
people don't,
Chicago, yeah.
but what people don't understand is the Chicago Auto Show is probably the biggest car show in the country.
Right.
I mean, and I'm talking about compared to anything else that you see out there, it's probably the biggest car show, square footage wise, the
It's
attendance
huge.
wise,
So big.
everything. Yeah, and just obviously you're
I don't think
seeing.
we've ever seen the whole thing.
I don't think we've ever seen the entire thing. I think we've passed by things, but I don't think we ever actually got a chance to see everything.
It's just so
And
much.
so to have the capability of actually being part of something that, uh, I mean, 2.5 years ago was virtually impossible. I mean, never in my head what I was going to think the Chicago Auto Show, one, was going to ever invite me to go as media, and two, actually care about my photos or whatever I do, if it's photos or the videos, and
Right.
actually share them. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And
Right.
and it's all about doing the thing that you want to do, keep doing it, learn how you can get better at it, and then when you're happy with what you see, others most likely are as well.
Hmm.
So when I first started this whole thing with Full Throttle Auto, I started as YouTube creating videos, and that's still the main thing that I focus on. I love creating videos, but the photos were a byproduct. It was just another way to create.
Right.
And at first I was like, oh, I'm just going to post pictures. I'm going to take a cool car if I see it,
Right.
and I'm going to post it online. After a while, that just wasn't enough. I was like, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with just taking a snap of a picture and posting it up. It doesn't look good enough for me, right? In my eyes. I'm not saying that it's not good enough for some people, but for my eyes, that's just not enough. So I started playing with editing them, and it's weird because most people would be like, "Oh wow, you're editing them in Photoshop instead of Lightroom." Like that's kind of weird for a photographer, but it's like, yeah, but they come out exactly how I want them to come out.
And that's what matters.
And because I enjoy them so much now, I've noticed that a lot of people also do as well, and they share them. I mean, you've seen it just continuously. Like I had the guy with the GTR. He's huge. He's known all around the country for his GTR, and he shared my photo from this last event.
Absolutely, Juan. Thanks for hanging out.
He shared my photo, and it was huge. It was like he's got 12,000 followers on Instagram, and I was like, oh wow, you know, somebody that actually enjoyed the photo and shared it. And then of course, you know, stuff people like the Chicago Auto Show, Nuccio Auto Group, all those guys have now, you know, big eyeballs, and for someone like myself, it's like it would be in most eyes, even not just for me, but most people, you know, when they start out, they're like, oh, I'm never going to be there, right? That's the mental state
Right.
that you're just automatically, for some reason, attracted to, like thinking negatively instead of like, well, let's just see what happens. Just do it. As long as you understand that the reason you're doing it is for you and the passion that you have for it.
Right.
You know, everything else, yeah, don't get me wrong. Do we want to, you know, do the passion as a living? Of course we do. There's nothing better in life than doing something you truly love and being able to live off that. Absolutely. You know, nobody can deny that. But the money is just a byproduct to knowing that you're doing the thing you actually enjoy. That's
Yeah,
why,
and
that's why,
I think that's an important factor of it. I think you have to remember that you can't, and I think there's a lot of talk. I watched a couple videos recently where, you know, these YouTubers who got, you know, 5, 6, 700,000 followers, 1 million followers, and they're, you know, they're cranking out videos on a regular basis, but then, you know, oh, they were, and, you know, the one did a video, oh, like burned out a little bit, blah, blah,
right.
blah. You know, there's a lot of people talking about burnout. Like, yeah, because it feels like you're trying to grind this out,
Right.
and I think that's the kind of thing that's going to pull away from the enjoyment of it.
100%. You know, it's at some point, from what I can see, is that they're too worried about releasing videos every day and getting those hits with the views
Yeah.
instead of releasing the videos they want to release that might be better quality. So I watch, you know, countlessly. I watch a lot of these automotive guys, and their videos, at best, they're subpar because all they're doing 90% of the time is talking to the camera,
Right.
right? Now, of course, in fine. But when I'm looking at it in more of a creative aspect and also as well what it's supposed to be based around, which is the automotive industry, if I'm not seeing a lot of the car and I'm seeing more you talking,
Right.
that's not going to, you know, in most cases, that's not going to attract eyeballs. That's not going to keep somebody's attention. Why do you think Top Gear and the Grand Tour do so well? Because they mix the two very well.
Yeah.
Yes, do you see them? Sure. But you also see a lot of the vehicle
Oh,
that
for
they're
sure.
doing it with.
For sure.
Whatever the vehicle might be. It might be a piece of crap. It might be something extraordinary. But it doesn't matter because what you're seeing is the creativity behind being able to put both on focus without it feeling boring. And so when you start, in my head, when you start creating content on a daily basis, at some point, you're going to lose that creativity because now you're just thinking, I got to crank out videos instead of like, how do I make this one more fun, better, stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, is more content great? Sure. But there's also a reason why even till this day, TV shows release one a week and then they take a huge break because they have to write out the proper script. They have to give you the proper graphics, depending on what it is,
Sure.
visuals, costumes, all that, and tell you the proper story. So there is a reason why you don't see a daily TV show because that would just be insane. That would be absurd.
Even soap operas take the weekend.
I'm saying, yeah, even soap operas are daily,
And I can't even imagine how far ahead they're from.
right. So it's even and you can see. I mean, there's definitely a difference between a soap opera and a different TV show that has a way higher budget and
Oh, yeah.
and better, just in general, just better everything. Not saying the soap operas are bad or anything, but there's definitely a quality difference in both acting, storytelling, visuals, everything.
Soap operas, in my perspective, as far as like the craft of acting for me has been like it's the kiddie pool. Like you
Yeah,
go there, you do a couple years,
yeah,
you flex your muscles a little
right. You
bit,
you see you see what you
figure out
can
how to
do.
cry on
Right,
command,
right, exactly.
and then you say, all right, now cool, like let's do a small film or let's do an actual TV show guest spot. Is that I remember back in the day, like I remember when Shamar Moore like broke out of daytime TV.
Mm,
It was like, oh wow, like this guy actually can kind of act. Like he's
right.
pretty decent.
But you wouldn't have known that,
Right.
doing that stuff. But I mean, it's everything that we do. If we stay doing the one thing and we do it the same, there's never going to be change because you're not looking for
Right.
change. You have to challenge yourself in progressing. I think that goes in everything that we do. Even something that like is similar racing is the same all the time,
For sure.
but you're
Yeah.
still somehow going to figure out how to challenge yourself
Right.
to be better,
Right.
right? Even if that's physically, if that's mentally, if that's behind the wheel, learning the lines better, putting more time in than the next person. When people are saying like, let's go party, you're a big name, you should be at this club, you should be like, maybe not. Maybe I should
Right.
be at the racetrack still learning what I need to learn to be number one the whole time.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it depends on how far you're willing to push yourself and what you'd want to do. But
Man,
the biggest thing is to be able to, yeah, I know.
it's weird.
No, yours is perfectly fine.
Very, very strange.
But it's all about pushing yourself and not letting yourself be your worst enemy, because the worst thing you can do is um, tell yourself that for some reason it won't work out.
Right.
And the biggest thing, the other thing that really bothers me is I see these things like even on Philip DeFranco where he does the news and his way. I mean, he doesn't necessarily do the news what most people know how to do the news. He does it in his own way. And you see comments like, "Oh, go get a real job. You're complaining about money and ads and selling." It's like, what makes you believe this isn't a real job? Why?
Right.
Because you're not happy in your job, and so because they're happy and you're not, that's why it's not a real job.
Right.
Oh, because they're in front of a camera and you're working with your hands, that's what makes it a real job versus not a real
And
job.
I think that goes back to it's kind of like an old age, age old
I
thing. I
mean,
mean,
let me put it this way.
artists.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let me put it this way. Are singers, actors, or even artists, do they have a real job? Because if you say they do, then there is no difference between that and
But
YouTubers who are
but
producing
but
their
but you
own.
also have to remember that those people, like singers, artists especially, and even to this day, art and people who design, those are grossly underappreciated
Oh,
and
I'm
grossly
sure.
undervalued by people because people try to get out of paying artists
Oh, yeah,
all the
no, and
time.
without a doubt, absolutely.
So I think there's still that mentality for a lot of people
Yeah,
where if you're not going to a 9 to 5 and working for somebody,
right,
I think really it comes out of a place of, but like what we're talking about here, passion as a business, doing what you want to do
right,
as your
right.
business versus them who had to work 35 years to
To get maybe a
work
retirement
yeah
plan.
work for some dude who they didn't like at a job they hated with people they despised.
Right, because maybe they never figure out what their passion was or
Exactly.
actually take the moment to.
Knew what it was and never pursued it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Made a
Like they
conscious
actually knew
decision
it, but they didn't want to pursue it because they always told themselves,
because then they know
it's
that
not
you're
gonna happen.
yep.
It's whatever it might be,
Yeah,
whatever
because
that
then they
excuse
know
might be.
you're doing something that they never got either
Right,
the courage to or
right.
the necessary impetus to just do it.
Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that's anywhere near the majority of the people in the world that,
Right.
but it does. There is a lot of them. There's a lot of people that are maybe not happy with the job situation, and so when they see somebody doing something and they're getting paid for it and they're really loving it, they're like, "Oh, you don't do a real job. Stop complaining."
Right.
Like that's not a fact. That's you're wrong. Everything that even if I do it less than let's say somebody else who's been in the industry for a while maybe due to financially restrictions and whatever that is, I am still taking a full day and all those hours on recording, editing, finding the right music to use, whatever it might be for the videos that I create. On top of that, I sit down in front of my computer for a few hours after I take a bunch of pictures and I edit them. So it is still hours that I'm doing something that's
Right.
not like going outside playing soccer, football, enjoying the pool. That's leisure. What I'm doing is I'm still enjoying myself. I still have a smile on my face,
Right.
like I'm in the pool,
And
but
that's the
I'm
difference.
gonna be getting paid for it.
That's the difference. That's the difference. And I think that's what the people who undervalue these creative fields, I think that's what they don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think
And,
that's the biggest problem. And I think it's always going to play into the fact that some people, don't get me wrong, I feel like there is a lot of people out there that are perfectly happy with a 9 to 5 job just because that is
and there's
where the
nothing wrong with
mentality.
that.
Nothing wrong with that.
And
I'm not
I think
saying
that's
there's
something
anything
that
wrong with
people also need to understand is that a lot of people who talk about striking out on your own, doing your own thing, they in many situations talk down about the working for
that. Not
somebody.
at all. Not at
I
all.
think there is a
Without those
need for
people,
those
yeah,
jobs
absolutely.
because
Without those
that's our
people,
infrastructure.
yeah, without those people
Like,
that are working for somebody else, that's something else. If it's a store or if it's manufacturing something, without them, that wouldn't exist. So yeah, we need people like that. We need people who are willing to do a 9 to 5 job and willing to do those jobs and are actually even happy doing them. That's great. But there are some people like us where our brains just can't accept it anymore. We want to do the one thing where we're not happy, right? And so you have to push forward in being what you really want. Like you can be unhappy and
right,
never pursue it, but then I feel like that's just going to make a bad life. Where as long as you're pursuing it, you're going to be happy about the fact that you are pursuing it, even if it takes a long. I'm one of those people that's crazy impatient. I want everything to happen now, but I also understand that's not going to happen. So I know that the biggest struggle for anything that we pursue, besides having luck on your side
right.
and having that right person or two people see it, you're going to be busting your ass until it happens.
True. It's completely true. I think to use an example, I think some people, like you said, do enjoy just being that 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I've seen it a lot. I've seen it a lot.
my wife has flat out said, I just want to go to work and leave work and not have to deal with work.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Some people want and desire that like I go, I make my money to pay my bills,
Right.
and then I get to live my life the rest of my time.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. To me, what I do is who I am, is my life.
Yeah.
So, when people talk to me like, what do you do? I make videos, I create content, I tell stories, because that's who I am.
Yeah.
Whereas, other people might be like, oh, I work at, an office.
Right.
But then I go and I do running, or then I go and do charity work. Then I go
pool.
and do,
I
play pool,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
We know a guy that plays pool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's all this stuff that you can do that that people want to do,
Right.
but they do the job to pay for that stuff.
Right, exactly. Like
They
they're
don't-
perfectly fine doing this job just to have fun with this, but not
Right.
necessarily pursue it to a point where it's, you don't need this other job.
Right, because I think there is the possibility in a lot of situations where you're going to have somebody, let's say they play pool, let's say they want to pursue pool.
Right.
That's a super, super narrow field. You
Yeah.
got to be really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like outstandingly good.
Right.
And then even if you are, it only takes a couple games for you to not be the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, what? You spent 5 years essentially ruining the thing you love.
Right.
Maybe it puts you in a worse, financial position. Because
Exactly.
realistically, not everything is beat your head against the wall doing it because you love it until it like pays out.
Right.
I think creativity, I think doing creative stuff like film and art and writing and that kind of stuff, that stuff can pay off very easily,
Yeah.
comparatively speaking. Not
Sure.
like super easy, not tomorrow,
Right.
but I think relatively easily in comparison to somebody who's like, my passion is to like build this new machine or
Right,
like
yeah,
a new
yeah.
type of engine.
Yeah.
You've got a whole path to get down to get to that point.
Oh, 100%.
That's the difference. Like for me, I don't think college worked. I think if I had realized what I wanted to do
Right.
early on, I would have not gone to college.
Well, that's well, that's kind of so that kind of played also into a thing where at some point I was like, oh man, because I didn't realize what I wanted to pursue. I knew things that I enjoyed and liked, but
Sure.
not that I was passionate about, right? And so because of that, I was like, oh well, maybe I'll go to college, get my gen eds out of the way, right? Even though I'm a little bit older now, why not? You know, that's never
Sure.
too late to get that out of the way, so I can utilize that and get in a better job. But I knew that was at some point, I knew like that still would have never been enough. And so figuring out actually what the one thing or two things that I want to pursue and focusing on those continuously and making sure that I stay focused on it, even though there's multiple things in the world that like to take my attention away from it because
Right.
I enjoy those
Sure.
things. That doesn't mean that
So
I
much TV to
right.
watch.
Yeah, I mean, like yeah, absolutely. TV shows, movies, I love those greatly, but they do take away from the thing I want to pursue. Gaming, another one.
Right.
You know, tech. You know, being involved in tech, purchasing tech instead of purchasing the stuff that I should purchase. All that plays into like having that distraction that might be able to you know, prevent you from pursuing even faster the thing you want to do. So really just being focused on it is going to be the other thing to, you know, make sure you do. You want to make sure that yeah, are there things that can distract you? Of course there are, but you have to realize they're there, and you can do those things in limitation where it's not completely distract you, where it's taken away from pursuing the thing, but you want to obviously limit it, so that way it's not taken away from that. And then the other thing, kind of going back into like your question, like what am I doing to continue to pursue the passion, is I try to do one thing every day that it continues to have me on that step. So even if that means just posting on Instagram one or two or three photos per day, that is one thing that I'm constantly doing for Full Throttle Auto, for keeping my name out there in the industry, for people seeing that I'm there and I'm not going away and that I continue with it.
Right.
So it's those are the biggest things that I think I've learned while doing this. One, you never know unless you ask, because
Right.
otherwise you're just going to tell
That
yourself
I
it's a
think
no.
that was one of those things that, like, I mean, hey, we got commercial work out of that. We
Right.
got lots of
Yeah.
things
Oh
out
yeah,
of
we got a lot.
asking.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
We had a
Um,
conversation one time, and that led to a lot of other really cool stuff.
yeah, absolutely,
And
without a
that's
doubt. Without a doubt.
that's
That's a
proof
perfect
of concept.
example. Yeah,
Proof
that's
of
proof of
concept.
concept. Yeah, that's a perfect example. There was one time where, you know, I went up. It was because you said it, and for a second I was going to hesitate, but I just went up. I talked to the guy. I said, "Hey, you know, I know you host car shows. I made a video." He, at that point, started talking about the video to everybody he saw
Yeah,
because he just
apparently.
loved it. And that's how we got work. And that's because, you know, we went up there. I approached him. I asked him questions. I said, you know, is this cool or this cool? And he was all for it. And then due to that is so once again, unless you ask, unless you do it, you don't know what is going to happen. You know the possibilities, but you have no idea what it's actually going to happen.
Right.
And then, of course, the other thing that I learned is what I've been hearing a lot from anybody, both pursuing, if it's acting, singing, creating videos, you know, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, is try to every day do one thing, even if it's a minor thing, but one thing towards that thing you're pursuing. So, like I said, for me, very minor. I post up a picture, even though I already edited them. I have a bulk of them, and then every day I try to make one or two or maybe three posts on Instagram, which, funny enough, then transfers over to Facebook and also Twitter,
Right.
and then keeps me active on those forums. And people see, you know, what whoever sees it, even if it's one person a day, they saw my name, they saw my post,
Right.
and it keeps me relevant. So that's going to be the two things that I could probably tell people to kind of, if they're going to take anything away from that, take that, you know, take that with you. Try to not give yourself an answer. Find out what the answer. Don't be scared of the answer.
How you doing, VJ?
And then also as well, try to do one thing every day towards that goal,
Absolutely.
even if it's the most minor thing in the world, even if in your head you're like, man, that could be so irrelevant. Like there's not going, but it doesn't matter. It's the one thing for that day that you did for that.
Exactly. Forward progression is forward progression. That it doesn't matter if you're progressing an inch or if you're progressing a mile.
Right.
If you take your positive steps to doing what you want to do, then you're doing that.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, like you said before, excuses come into play.
100%.
I think a lot of people like they hang on those excuses and they hang themselves on those excuses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas you could also use those excuses to climb on.
Yeah.
Hey, I could not do this today, but then if I do tomorrow, I will have done that.
Right.
Now that's a success.
Yeah.
You're building off that success.
Absolutely.
Let's say if today you say I'm going to post one photo about, whatever.
Right.
Smurfs.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm gonna post another photo about Smurfs.
I mean,
and that's that's your thing. That's your
but I
thing,
mean,
and whatever.
it's a perfect it's a perfect example. We already done it for ourselves, where we went back and viewed old videos.
Oh yeah.
So imagine if we did those videos now instead of making, let's say back then we were like, oh, we'll do it tomorrow, and then 2-3 years, and it's now current day, and now we finally release our first video. We're just as bad as we would have been, or we were 3-4 years ago.
Right.
Like I view videos and I'm like, man, I thought that was good. That is complete trash. It is literally trash.
I remember watching some of those.
But if I didn't do it then, I would be in the literally same moment now. I would be making trash content.
Yeah.
So by doing it, by constantly doing it and pushing one day every day to do something towards that, you're going to progress your skill. You're going to get better at it. And you're just that's gonna, one, not only show you motivation because you're getting better, but then show others, like, one,
Right.
you kept consistent, two, you've gotten clearly better. Okay, well, maybe there's something there. This person doesn't seem like they're flake or somebody that just says they're going to do something but doesn't do it. It goes also for my photos. You look at my old Instagram photos for the first maybe year that I started, they're just pictures of vehicles. If it's a motorcycle or a car,
Right.
and that's all it was. There was nothing to it. But now you view them and you go back 6 months, you'll see there was change, there was editing, there was actual time taken, not just taking the picture, but also making it the way I want to see it. The way when I look at cars or the way I look at things
Right.
around that industry, how I see it. And this is my showing of you, like, this is how I see this. Like, this is the absurdity that I see,
Right.
when I look at this stuff. And so without doing it and always giving excuses and then starting, you're gonna be in the moment you start, is the problem is with that is you're gonna not have the skill. And so you're gonna be like, oh, it's 2018, I gotta start now. But if you started 3 years ago when you were thinking the same thing, now you would have a better skill at whatever that thing is
Right.
that you're
And
doing.
if you're starting now, you should start now and not
Yeah.
try to feel out the
Yeah,
industry
exactly. If
or
maybe
feel out the field or whatever. Just do it.
no,
Do it
yeah,
tomorrow.
100%.
Do it now.
Here's the thing: if now you've just realized today, at current time, hey, I know what I want, but I'm having this tough time deciding if I should pursue it. Yes, absolutely. That one thing it is to do it. Because if you keep procrastinating, you're never going to do it. And if you do it at some point, it might be, in your head, it might be too late.
Right.
It's never too late, but in your head, it might be too late. Or you might not be at that time where you're going to want to be if you start at that time instead of starting now.
To go back to what I mentioned earlier, we talked to Jordan Wayne Long a couple weeks ago, and the camera's doing the thing again. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
It doesn't like me.
Right?
Doesn't like.
Is it lit up there?
It is not. Still not.
Come on.
Nothing.
Oh, come on. Let's do it here. This is a perfect example. This is the live. Like, we wouldn't know we had these issues. Like, yeah. There's no way to know. There you go.
If it didn't do it.
Yeah. If you didn't do, like, right. So even if you, let's say you're like, all right, I'm gonna start making videos. I'm gonna start making, let's say, gaming videos.
Right.
But first, I'm gonna get real good at Overwatch. So then you spend a year getting just platinum level.
Right.
You can place platinum every season.
Right.
And then you get on and you realize you don't know anything about OBS.
Right.
You don't know anything about how to
moment to even if you just took the moment to record a video without even editing it, but just to learn the one thing.
Right.
it would have been more than like saying, "Oh, I just want
Right. But now, so now you're a great player, but
Right.
your content is trash.
Right.
Whereas if your content is trash and you're a trash player today,
Right.
and the next you watch it tomorrow, you're like, oh man, like my camera was way off. So
Right.
tomorrow, you adjust your camera, you're in the right spot. Now the next day, your camera's better. But oh, man, I could have taken that shot better. Now you're getting better as a player.
Yeah.
And then in 6 months, you're looking at it. Your camera's perfect. Your lighting's great. Your sound is awesome.
Yeah, everything's
and you're a better
progressing.
player.
Everything's progressing.
Versus if you started 6 months from now, you might be the better player.
Right.
But your video be shit.
Right.
So then who cares? Why do I want to watch you?
Right.
So it's all progressive, and I think like you said, I think the biggest things are do not think there is an answer before you ask a question.
Right.
And absolutely do something every single day.
Every single day. And the only other thing I did want to mention is, and that this took a little bit of time also to learn, but invest in yourself, right? Yeah, we love supporting other companies, we do, right? And if you're one of those people, absolutely.
Hold on. I want to show this on the video
right?
for those listening to the podcast in the future. This is from C2E2.
Yeah, this is.
I
from
do
this
love
last weekend.
supporting people.
Yeah.
I do love supporting other creators, but at the end of the day, I still bought a new camera last year.
Yeah.
Bought the stuff that I needed.
Yeah.
I bought software packs, whatever I needed to make sure that I was progressing.
Exactly. Like as much as I enjoy other products, video games, tech that might not necessarily be useful to me in the sense.
Right.
That's all great, and I can purchase that at any point. But what I need now might be different, especially if I want to invest in myself. So like buying a new lens like I did. Last year I bought a new camcorder and a gimbal.
Right.
Which increased in my opinion, increased my video quality insane amount.
You get shots that you just couldn't before.
Yeah,
you just couldn't.
Yeah, I couldn't. Like I did what I did for a few years before I could spend the money and have that. Also, as well, let's say for instance, we have merch for me and even T3G. I buy my own shirts. I don't buy somebody else's shirts because I want to wear my merch.
Right.
I want to wear my brand.
There it is.
So if I can't invest in myself, even in merch-wise, then
Right.
why would others?
Exactly.
Why
Exactly.
would anybody else? So.
Which, by the way, you said I want to hit on that real quick. You said you met a fan at the last show that you were
I
at.
did. That was crazy.
Was that the last shot? Was he wearing a Full Throttle hoodie?
He was not. That was actually my wife.
Oh,
I just did
okay.
that because she told me I should have my product in the shot. So
Oh,
I said,
okay,
fine.
okay.
But that would have been cool.
I was gonna say because, but you had somebody. So
I
you've been working on this for 3 years solid. You've been
Solid,
producing Full Throttle Auto content for 3 solid years, and you went to the show, and you texted me. You're like, I met a fan today.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, first of all, the fact that how he saw me was crazy. I was on the ground. I was kneeling. I was taking
Welcome house?
picture. I was taking a picture of a car from the floor, so
Right.
I had to be close to the floor with the camera. And he just turned his head, and I didn't have my this shirt on or anything that says that it was me. And he was like, Full Throttle Auto, and I just was like, that's crazy, man.
Right.
Like, how did you even possibly realize? I know I've been consistent, but like I only have maybe 230 something like that subscribers. Yeah, I have a little over 500 followers on Instagram, but it was just insane to see that somebody actually recognized me from the thing I was doing. So it definitely put you in a.
Not here. Oh, I'm a jerk. There we go. Fix that. There we go.
So it was very humbling. Definitely humbling to have somebody, and it wasn't the first time. I mean, first time I think I got approached was a guy with his 2 kids.
Right.
It was at the So Ill thing, little event, the free event they host like on Sundays or whatever. And like he came up to me and he's like, "Oh yeah, we watch you every time. Every time you have a video, we sit down and watch." And I was like, "Oh, wow,
that's the kind of thing.
That's crazy." And that was even before I had any
Right.
real followers. And
3 years ago, when you started, were you thinking about, oh man, like I'm gonna meet fans someday?
Not at all. No, I just, the only thing I knew is that I needed to, the only thing in my head was I needed to be in the industry that I wanted to be in. I needed to have my name out there somehow. And then, of course, having something that I can show to, I guess, leverage to sponsors, right? So,
Right.
like, if you don't have the funds, if you're not rich, you don't have the funds to race. So you need sponsors, and sponsors are always going to ask, like, what can you do for them? And so my initial thought would have been, well, if I can create videos, take pictures,
Sure.
maybe have a following on social media, I can use that. Be like, well, I already have a following. I already have people that pay attention to me, that see my stuff, and that's what I can offer you right now. And obviously, then there's going to be whatever we talk about after that. What else I can offer them? But I never in a million years would have thought like, oh, I'm gonna get approached by fans, or I'm gonna get, somebody's gonna call my name out of nowhere and approach me and want to take a picture with me. Like none of that was in my head. I've never even considered it. I never,
Right.
you see that with actors and stuff when they do, these big red carpet events, or even when they're out on the street, people are like, oh, it's you. Blah, blah. But never in a million years did I think like that's what I was gonna, that was gonna happen with me. And like I said, it's not like I'm a huge success or in any success technically at the moment, but to even experience that at the level that I'm at was very humbling. It was just like it kind of like was like, oh wow, it's not just me. It's not just
Right.
somewhat like it's not just the content for me, but like others actually connect and enjoy it. And I think that was huge. That was, I mean, it's just crazy to experience something like that. It doesn't happen often, right? Because you're not big enough yet, but when it does, it takes you back for a second. Like you don't know. You're like, man, what if I say something wrong? What if I do something wrong? What if I react differently? So it's like it's interesting, It's you try to be what they see, because I mean, what the biggest thing for me is when I make videos, especially the vlogs, I try to be myself. I try to
Right.
show them the
For
things
sure.
that I'm passionate about and how I am around it. Everybody has different levels to themselves. Sometimes you're grumpy because you didn't get enough sleep.
Right,
You're
right.
starving. Everybody gets those like angry moments, but then not necessarily that's you. So like I'm always like when that happened, I was like, man, what if they caught me like when I wasn't happy?
Right.
Like what if like
What if you were having a
I
bad
was
day
just having a
and they
horrible
walk up
day.
to you and you're like, yeah, what?
But no, never in my life. Never. Even when I started this, was I thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna get approached and somebody's gonna want to take a picture with me, or somebody's gonna want to like, they're gonna be like, hey, it's you, Fullthrottle Auto, Harris, and I'm like, that was crazy. That was just insane. It was just it's an experience that definitely you don't know. I don't think you could ever get used to something like that. Maybe at some point when it's a consistent thing in your
Yeah,
life.
maybe it's happening every day.
Yeah, like
maybe you're
those
Gary
things
V
that-
walking down New York streets
Right.
and they're like, oh, let me take a picture. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. But otherwise, it's like, man, I have no idea how do you react to things like that. That's a level that it's like.
I have to
it's
say, like
unique.
watching really big people who are like known across areas, watching something like Casey Neistat, ride his boosted board down the streets of New York, and then people are just like,
It's like,
"Hey, Casey," and it's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, who is this person that you're
Right.
talking? But like, that's just who he is.
That's just who he
He's
is.
known, and people talk. Like, I feel like I would, but I think that's the more of the direct connection. I think a year ago, if I saw Will Smith on the street, I would be fangirling out.
Right.
I think now that he's, I guess, more humanized with a
Definitely,
vlog,
especially with a vlog, yeah.
I could just be like, oh my God, Will, like, so glad. I feel like I
Glad
would
to
be
meet
more
you.
approaching.
Yeah.
I feel like if I saw,
Properly approach them.
Right.
I think a lot of things that people say when they're in the eye of other people and they have fans, is it's great that they approach them and say, hey, can I get a selfie? But one of the biggest things that people always say is like, hey, how's it going? How you doing?
right,
Stuff like that. Not necessarily like, oh, I love you. Can I have a picture? Like I've heard that a lot from others, and I don't know. Like I can't say if I'm ever how I'm gonna be because
Right.
it's I'm still not. I don't have a following like that, and just to get these random experiences like that, I've no like it was cool. Don't get me wrong. I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. You can take a picture. Yeah, I have no problem. Like that's, but it was definitely an interesting experience. Not something clearly it's something that's going to be there when you get bigger and bigger and you continue to grow. but I don't know if it's something that you can get used to for a while.
The donut thing. Yeah.
It is.
There we go. No, kind of. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Anyway, so what's next for you? What's you finished the one racing series?
I did.
Are you doing the summer league?
I'm gonna do some things in the summer league. It's gonna cost way too much to stay competitive in it. So to actually win each event in the summer league, or at least the Friday Night Light stuff, or Friday Night stuff, not Friday Night Light. Friday Night stuff it's every basically weekend and they split up so there's like first set, and then you have your winners, then you do another set. So there's 3 total during the summertime. And that's expensive. I mean, every time you race, it's like $75. So you're looking at over $300 for the month. That's a lot of money. You know, that's a chunk and change that some people just can't throw, and I'm one of those people at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to, now if there is the same thing where we did the Midwest Karting Challenge, where it was like 3 events, they're split out between the months, and I can toss in like that $70 and do that challenge and see how I place, that's great. The Friday night stuff, I'm gonna try to do 1 or maybe 2 a month,
right.
and just to continue build that skill.
Sure.
That's gonna be the biggest thing. So I wanna, obviously, it's a thing that I focus on constantly. I'm always thinking about it. I'm always thinking about how to be better. But the more you obviously do it, is what's gonna help you the most. So I'm definitely gonna try to figure out how to this summer throw myself in there more to get more seat time. And then, of course, continuously just making the videos, being around it in general, even if I can't race, at least be near it, be there with people, continue to talk with people, continue to meet new people. I think that's another thing with people with anxiety like myself is we have a very big problem with actually communicating with others. And so it's something to, bypass. But because of everything that I've been doing, I've met so many great people that maybe at some point in your head you would have thought, man, I bet those people are not as nice, or maybe they're not as as welcoming, but you'd be surprised. You just give it a moment to talk with them, approach them, they're in the same thing that you enjoy, it's most likely going to be that they have the same mentality as you.
Right, for sure. Well, I'm glad that you've got a plan. I'm glad you got some stuff planned ahead.
And of course, working with T3G.
Well, naturally, of course, T3G.
Of course. And making some more, even better videos than just like montage videos and vlogs. We definitely are looking at that documentary stuff, and we really want to put some effort into that, and just kind of, just so people have even more of a sense of where like my thing falls into it.
For
I
sure.
think maybe some people just see I like making videos instead of the actual passion for the racing. So
I like it. For those watching, obviously you have the links in the video. You have links down below. For those listening, where can people find you?
Oh man, of course on YouTube, youtube.com/Fullthrottle Auto, all one word. Or if you search within YouTube, Full Throttle, one word, Auto, separate from that. Instagram, Fullthrottle_Auto. Twitter, Full Throttle Auto altogether, but 1 T at the end of throttle, just because it was weird how we can fit it. Facebook, of course, is facebook.com/FullThrottleA, because Full Throttle Auto was taken, unfortunately. And then, of course, my new website, which was just launched this year, and it's www.fullthrottleauto.org. I couldn't get the .com.
Why .org? That's for organizations.
Yeah, I know.
That's for organizations.
It was for organizations, but it was the only one that kind of like made sense to me. .net and .com weren't available, so it was the only other one that would kind of made sense to me.
Fair. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of Passion as a Business on the Tangents Podcast, on Caffeine's broadcast, everywhere in the world. We're all over the place. All over the place. Thanks everyone that joined us, House or VJ, if you guys are still with us. Thank you very much for hanging out, for watching. If you guys want to check out, if you what you missed the early part of the show, this will be on next week on the T3G Tangents channel on YouTube video, and then the Tangents Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play,
we're like
We're
legit.
Yeah, we're
We're like
legit.
legit. Yeah.
That's about as legit as it gets, right?
Right,
When
for
you're on
sure.
all the platforms.
For
I would say
sure.
So, I want to make this. I want to make this comment, and you could argue with me, but if I say it, it's true, right? We're the best podcast out there, in my opinion.
Best podcast on the
best
internet,
podcast.
as far as I'm aware.
Two people agree, so can't be.
VJ
wrong on
says
that.
it was awesome. VJ loved
there
it,
you go.
so
I love it. See,
I like it. I like it very much.
There you go.
Thanks again for hanging out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Later.